Hey champions, how are you doing? Well, today I'm going to be talking about something that you probably have recently done or are in the process of doing. Yes, I'm talking about the appraisal conversations. These conversations, like all of you will agree, can turn out to be extremely notorious and tricky for all of us as entrepreneurs. Why? Simply because you as an entrepreneur have a ceiling, a budget that you have to distribute in terms of your salary increments, and every employee is looking at you to see whether you are able to see his worth exactly in the same way he thinks of himself. And that's exactly what makes this conversation very sensitive and difficult. But all of you guys are champions, and here I'm going to be talking about three extremely powerful points that will help you drive through this difficult conversation with ease. Keep watching. Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about how to handle appraisal conversations with ease. You as an entrepreneur and I as an entrepreneur always find it difficult to get into this conversation. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 points, and there are several things under each of the points that will help you breeze through this conversation. A lot of things that you possibly haven't done so far, you can now correct for the next conversation that you have. So take a book and a pen and keep making notes. Pause this video, make a note of whatever I'm saying and you think is applicable to you. So here we go. Point number 1, prepare. You cannot get into a appraisal conversation unprepared, thinking that whatever the employee is going to say, you're going to handle it right then and there. No, it can't happen that way, because the way you go about handling it, if that answer is not accepted and you get a rebuttal, you will be stumped. So you got to prepare. Now, what is it that you prepare for? So you prepare for the following things. Number 1, you should know what your ceiling is in terms of giving an appraisal. When I say ceiling, I mean how much appraisal in terms of money can you give this person. Now, how would you know that? First, look into your accounts. Understand how much money you have made in the company that you can reserve and utilize for appraisals. If you haven't reserved anything, get into the habit of reserving money for appraisals at the end of the year. If you don't have a reserve bank, trust me, you're up for a very, very difficult situation. So if you don't reserve it, start doing it right away. If you already reserved, now you have a corpus that you're going to use on appraisals. You take your organization chart and then distribute that amount in departments. Now, how do you go about distribution? There is no mathematical formula that I can advise here, but the way you're supposed to go about dividing this corpus is by looking at what's the market salary offered to that particular department. You may have a department where the market salary is as good as what you are offering, so you accordingly put an amount there. You may have a department where you are offering far lower than what the market would offer those guys. There could be a potential attrition there. So you got to put enough money there for appraisal so that you at least meet the market. In corporates, we call this market correction. You may have a department where you are paying far higher than what the market is paying. In those scenarios, you may allot a little bit less than the other departments to do their appraisals. Once you do this, then you got to break that amount down to who in that department you will give how much. For this, you should have an org chart devised. An org chart will give you salary bands for each designation, so that the employees know that I cannot get more than this at the same designation. So he will go up, and then there's a ceiling. Now he will work hard to add more value, maybe become a manager, a supervisor, or maybe move departments. The moment he adds more value, you benefit as an organization and you become capable of giving money for that extra value that he's generated. So he's helping himself, he's helping you, but the direction is required, and that comes from the organization chart. So do that. The second thing that you prepare for is a mathematical, calculated, logical way in which you are going to give an appraisal. So if you do not have a mathematical, logical way in which you decide how much money should you give the person, you are going to be in a problem. Why? Because people don't understand feelings, but it's very easy to convey the logic. Now, what I recommend that all of you should have a method of doing variable income, and that method that works wonderfully with all my clients is called scorecards. If you haven't done scorecards, or if you haven't heard about this, I will paste a link in the description box, and it will also appear somewhere here. That's a video that I have done on scorecards to give you an idea of what that means. That video is in Hindi, so some of you who don't understand Hindi may not be able to relate to it. For all of you folks, I will make a separate video, but you will have to mention that in the comment box so that I know. And if I know a lot of you want it, we remake it. So you got to have a scorecard methodology or any other mathematical methodology that can help you arrive at how much you are going to do. When you have logic, you can present that logic. The best that the person can do is challenge that logic. If he challenges that logic, he would have to have a logic to to what he's suggesting, and therefore the negotiation can become beautiful and constructive instead of I want this, I am willing to give this, let's come somewhere in the between. It is not the right way of doing that negotiation. So have a mathematical formula or a logic devised so that you are better equipped in the conversation. The third thing that you must prepare upon is the past performance. And when I say prepare upon, you must have objective past performance. You can't say your performance was good, great, poor. You can't use these terms, because what is good? Something that is good for you can be best for me. Something that is best for me can be poor for you. So how do you negotiate and discuss performance based on good, bad, ugly? You cannot. So you need to have a very clear-cut definition, which will again come from performance parameters. Now, if you've not drawn performance parameters for your people, then you are already late. But you're not completely off the hook. You can do that now. You would want to write down what are the things that you want that profile to achieve. Write that down and think in your head, how can you arrive at a measurement that can help you say, okay, he was supposed to do X number of sales, he's done this much. He's in back office, he was supposed to process so many number of files, he's done so much. The accuracy of processing files had to be 90%, but I have figured out that out of the 10 files that he's processed, 2 of them had an issue, so he was at 80%. Try and figure out these measurements and be ready with it. If you're not ready with it, again, the conversation may not go very well. The whole idea of performance appraisal is to calibrate with your people on what the performance is like and what it should be. Now, while you do that, also write down how you see the situation in case of performance. What are the wins that you acknowledge and you see it, and what are the fails that you think you should correct. Also write down your recommendation on what the performance improvement plan should be, what those actions need to be. Now remember something, this is preparation. We are writing down everything that is as per us, but we should always be open to listen to the other side of story. By no means am I telling you that once you write it down, that becomes the truth of the world. No, it does not. It's simply preparation so that when you go into the conversation, you are not going there without anything, any awareness at all. Point number 2, set an agenda. An appraisal discussion, if you enter without an agenda, you guys may end up going anywhere and everywhere. And because this is a very sensitive discussion, the employee is very, very keen to know how you see him. You are a very valuable person in his life, because you are going to gauge him, assess him, and he's waiting to to listen to your final verdict, and therefore the reward that he can expect. You cannot get into this conversation without an agenda. So what should the agenda be? My recommendation is the following. Number one, you should be able to set the objective of the discussion. Please be very, very upfront in telling the employee what the performance of the organization has been. Number one. Then you go about telling the employee how did his department contribute to that? How do you see his department contributing to it? Then you talk about, therefore, how do you want him to contribute to what you want to do? Set an agenda, and the agenda should be, the objective should be to figure out and calibrate on what the performance has been and what the performance should be, and therefore draw up an agreeable action plan that both you and the person can walk in with confidently. If you can achieve this objective, then the reward or the negotiation that happens doesn't really matter. When you set an objective like this, you put the employee at ease. It is not a place where you are going to judge somebody. Yes, you are definitely going to assess, but you're not assessing a person, you're assessing the person's performance. That has to be very, very clear in the setting of objectives. The second thing that you want to do is you have to set and let the person know the mathematical formula that you are going to use to decide his reward. The reason why this is a second point in the agenda is because he's going to be very, very curious about the reward that he's going to get at the end of it. All the employees are going to see this. Even when I was an employee in the corporate, this was an opportunity for me to sell myself. That's the only time I did my own sales pitch, because that's what I worked for, the salary. So if you are going to give me an increment and the increment depends on this discussion, I am going to be looking forward to it. So I will not be able to participate in the action plan and all of that if I don't know how these things are going to happen. So make sure you get away with that. Let the person know. The second thing that we are going to discuss is the logic on how we are going to reward you, and that therefore has to be the second point on your agenda. The third thing on your agenda should be the review of the past performance. Now, when you are talking about review of the past performance, you do that first, so that again the person eases down. You show the person how you see the performance, and then invite him to present to you how he sees his performance. That way, it's very easy for you, both of you, to calibrate on your understanding of why something went up and why something went down. Do the same thing on the wins and losses also, because again, when I say do the same thing, I mean you present first and then let him present next. That way you will be able to calibrate far more effectively. And the idea is not to put somebody down or not to appraise somebody out of context. The idea here is to calibrate and understand how your performance was in the past, so that you can build on it in the future. Point number 3, be forward looking. The whole objective of performance appraisal is not simply to give a salary hike to somebody. Okay, now that can be an objective for an employee, but for all of you entrepreneurs, that's not the objective. Your objective is to see how the performance was and then correct from there, so that you can become a better performing company in the next year. Now, when you go through these performance conversations, keep writing what you could have done differently or what you should do immediately now, so that you are able to communicate to your team how they should perform and how you are going to see the good, bad, ugly performance as. Draw up the parameters if you missed on it. If you've already drawn parameters but there was a new thing that you had to measure which you did not, Drop a new parameter, something that you're doing fantastically well naturally. You may want to weed out that parameter. See, it's like a cricket team. A cricket team needs to know, a cricket team that goes for batting needs to know what the target is. They need to know what the average run rate required is. They need to know that they only have 11 players. They can't have the 12th man batting alone. Now, if you don't lay out these rules, first hand to your people, then they are going to go out there and bat the way they think is right, and that may not be right in your books. So it's important to lay all of these rules in front of your employees, right now. If you've not done it in the last year, do it right now, so that the next year appraisal your entire team is pushing forward, and that gives you the corpus to keep them happy with the kind of expectations that they have with the appraisal. With all of these 3 points, you should be able to go through the performance conversation with a lot more confidence and in a breeze. If you've gone through this entire video, paused it several times, made notes, thought over it, you must have questions. If you have questions, there is a comment box down there. Ask me questions. I'll be very, very happy to answer them. Now, there are several people out there who are not watching this video. They are entrepreneurs who are struggling to get into the performance appraisal conversations. They don't know how to do it. Share this video with them. If you share this video with them, it's a value add for their lives and they will bless you. And we all need blessings as much as we can. This is going to add value not only to your entrepreneurial friends, but also to their employees, because your entrepreneurial friend will do the appraisal in the way it must be done. And we as a country then will perform together and accelerate. We all like to be in a company that's in a country that's well developed, right? Now it's in your hand. Go share this video with anybody and everybody who's an entrepreneur and you know them. If you like this video, hit a big fat thumbs up. If you've not subscribed yet, what are you doing? This is a free content coming your way to help you accelerate. And with this content, if you have questions, it is an opportunity to ask me questions. And again, I'm going to answer and not charge you anything. So go out there, hit that beautiful red button and the black bell, because once you hit the black bell, you become the guy who's notified every time I put a video to keep your company growing and propelling. So until we meet next time, keep implementing, keep learning, keep propelling.